Good evening. Hello, my dear friends. 254. Why does it say on YouTube episode 253? Very unusual. Anyway, apologies. I'm running late. I'm still eating. Humble apologies. You are tuned to Live Irish Myths, episode number 254, part 16 of our reading of P.W. Joyce's A Social History of Ancient Ireland. As well as the fact that I'm a little bit late, I'm going to have to leave early. So, my apologies. I'm going to have to try and skip through this. Oh, for God's sake, there's enough company. That's all we need. Yes, before we start this evening, a quick mention or congratulations to Geraldine Stout and Matthew Stout on the publication of their wonderful volume on the excavation of the French Cistercian Grange of Bobc. If you've been following Mythical Ireland for the past few years, you'll know that I was closely following those excavations over a period of 3 years, flying the drone over them. My daughter Tara was a volunteer on the dig in the final year of the excavations. And there is a video on the YouTube channel, which is over an hour long, I believe, all about those excavations. Filmed during that summer of 2021. Can't believe it's over 2 years since those excavations wound up. And yeah, that's exactly an hour long, actually. Yeah, so we attended the launch last week of this fabulous tome. It's very comprehensive. A lot of detail, fabulous chapters on, for instance, the ceramics, the flint, the prehistoric flint that was found on the site, the pottery, the seed analysis, the analysis of all the sort of organic material that was found. It's very comprehensive. Delighted to have been able to make a contribution in the form of several of my drone photographs that are featured. Yeah, a wonderful piece of work. I would recommend you buy it, but I think it's sold out at the launch, so we'll have to possibly wait for a reprint. And that's published by Chapel Press. Chapel Press, and published in conjunction with the FBD Trust, ISBN 978-1-3999-6850-8. I'll supply that later for anybody who's interested in that. Not so much a prehistoric excavation. However, there were pits found which the Stouts believed were were prehistoric, and which were found in the carbon dates to be very late Neolithic, sort of at 2400 BC, the Neolithic / Bronze Age horizon. So a fascinating insight, and of course, Bobc located here just outside of the wonderful ancient city of Drogheda. A very quick hello to everybody. Joe Butler was the first to comment tonight. Auntie Joe, thank you for sharing the information earlier about the slight delay. Brendan Byrne is in the house. Good evening, Brendan. Teresa Collins, what about you, Teresa? Yes, indeed, what about you is right. Good evening to you. Judy McQueen is in the house. Hello, Judy. John Main is in San Francisco. It's a lovely, foggy, mild morning. Well, it was Baltic here today. We were up at Fornox. You may have seen the post earlier. More to come about that, by the way. I was up at Fornox with Joe Monks today filming. He's making a documentary about damage and vandalism to Irish prehistoric sites, and was interviewing me at Fornox about that subject, and got some lovely photographs up there. Spent a lovely few hours up there this morning, but outside of the monument it was Baltic, icy cold, the sort of cold wind that after a minute makes your face numb and makes your eyes water. Desiree Riley is in the house, and Amadeus, I hope. Desiree, always a pleasure to see you. Good afternoon to you. Lily Shambles is in the house. Anne McCallum is here. Lots of heavy rain plus some snow, but at the moment it's just cloudy and chilly. A chilly 3, heading back down to 0 later on. Actually, what temperature is it here now? Loved your recent post. Feeling the floor of Fornox, as always. Looking forward to story time. Thank you, Anne. My pleasure. 5 Celsius actually in Dublin Airport right now. Joe Butler is sending Desiree a private message with news. Valentina Bernardi, good evening. Hello, Valentina. I'm not sure if you've joined us before. If you haven't, you're very welcome to the Mythical Ireland community. And if you have, you're still very welcome. What a pleasure to welcome you on board. Wayne Bird is in the house. Good evening, Wayne. Hope all is well on the other side of the Irish Sea. Mariana, is in Virginia. Hello, good evening, Mariana. In the early days, of course, I used to ask her, was that Virginia in Cavan? But no, Virginia in the US, of course. And Valentina is in the Isle of Avalon. Are you in Glastonbury, Valentina? Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, Barb. Good evening to you. Red hearts all around. Anne Scott Doherty, greetings to you. Hello, Anne. Heather Marie Leaning is here, saying hello to myself and Tom King. Hope all are well and keeping warm. It's lovely and toasty in this house right now. And speaking of Tom King, well, hello there, Auntie. Don't forget, you can get your Tom King jewellery on the Mythical Ireland website, mythicalireland.com. Hope all are good, Fettle. It's very cold under clear sky here in the Boyne Valley. Enjoy storage time. It is cold. Yeah, it's kind of, as we say in Drogheda, Tom, I'm not sure if they say it out in Avon way. It's bitter. And they say it exactly like that. Alan Hoskins is in a chilly and crisp but beautiful Ballina-Killaloe. I was going to apologise for being late, but phew, yeah. A wizard is never late, but apparently the host is. Or Burgess, whose name I can't remember from last week. Forgive me, but you will tell me. Hope everyone is healthy and happy. That's a lovely greeting. As far as I know, I'm healthy, certainly happy. Britt Griffin is saying hello from Cobalt, Northern Ontario. Glad to be back. What sort of temperatures up there, Britt? Are you under snow there now? Michael Pike is in the house. Hello, Michael. Good afternoon and welcome. Alva Kelly has joined us. Thank you for recording these live streams. I've learned many things from you, and I watch the recordings during the week if I can't join you live. Brilliant. And that's exactly why it's such a great facility, that it does record both on YouTube and on Facebook. But thank you, Alva. Glad that you're enjoying the content. Sharon O'Farrell is in the house. Sharon, long time no see. Hope you're keeping well. Always great to see you. Sue Prenter, another tempting volume, Anthony. Please share the title again. Thank you. Yes, it's called Bobc, County Meath, subheading Excavation of a French Cistercian Grange in the Boyne Valley. Geraldine Stout and Matthew Stout. Yeah, very comprehensive volume. Who am I missing? Amanda Morgan is in Queensland, Australia. Good morning to you, Amanda. Happy Tuesday morning to you from all of us who are still in Monday in the northern/western hemisphere. What a pleasure, as always, to welcome our friends down under. Irish Rover, please remember to like and subscribe, everyone. This is wonderful information. Thank you kindly, Irish Rover. And correct, yes, please, especially if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like and share and do all that stuff. Michael Trott is in New Zealand. Good morning to you, Michael. And always a pleasure to welcome our friends from who are ahead of us in time. From the future. Our friends from the future. Our friends from Tuesday while we're still in Monday. Catherine Cleary, just able to join you all as I'm trying to get Apple Watch set up, and it is taking forever. Don't want to hang up with Apple, though, so I'm multitasking. Multitasking is good, Catherine, and because you're a woman, you will undoubtedly succeed, where I would absolutely fail. Helen Hurst-Shader is saying, greetings, friends. Great news about Newgrange live stream for the solstice. Yes, indeed. It's been live streamed, I think it's just the one day, is it? The 21st, if I read that correctly. I really should pay more attention, but there's a lot going on. Robin Bartolomo is in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Brilliant. Hello. Good morning, Robin. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Several of you joining us from that part of the world down under in Australia and New Zealand. Fantastic stuff. Happy Tuesday to you, by the way. Yes, says Valentina, Glastonbury, who has become an island again, completely flooded. Oh, wow. I wonder, I follow, what's his name, Kev Pearson, the photographer. He often flies a drone around Glastonbury. I wonder if he's got any nice pictures of that. Susan Quinn, I know flooding is not nice, but, you know, is in Dallas in Texas. We have a lot of viewers in Texas. Susan, you're very welcome. What's the temperature there? I'm sure it's very warm. Anita Carroll is saying hello from a windy Wexford. Hang on a second. Wexford is in the sunny southeast. Surely it's a mistake to say it could possibly... Oh, wait, it's nighttime. It's not sunny. Daniel Gorham is saying hello from Melbourne, Australia. What's the story? We've got loads of viewers in Australia this morning and in New Zealand. Danielle, what a pleasure. to welcome you and all our Australian viewers. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're in good form down there, and hope that the weather is nice in your part of the world. Adina Sparks is saying a chilly day today, but sunny after a snowy and windy weekend. Luckily, we haven't had any snow yet. Robert M. Brown. Hello, Robert. Robbie. Rob. Robert. Robert celebrated a significant birthday in recent time. Happy birthday to you, Robert. I will not mention that it's a half century. I will not mention the age. But congratulations on getting that far. You're very welcome, Michael Trott. Always a pleasure. Simon Tusafar. Oh, Tusafar is looking forward to the arrival of milder weather on Wednesday. He's like, yeah, I can feel that stretch in the evenings before the solstice even comes, you know. John Inman is in Eureka in California. We had several inches of rain. It used to rain 60 inches a year here, and one could get ready to live in London as it was foggy all the time. Now, not now. In 2007, it changed. Wow. Sotonar saying Trononoa, Nadina Bra, Tronoa Tufain, Sotonar, welcome. T is saying 2020. Looking at the clock. T all round. Thank you. Make mine a peppermint. Lovely. Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter is late. And it's 16 Celsius in Dallas, or in the Texas, Dallas, Texas area. Wow. That's a whole 11 degrees warmer than us now. It surely looks beautiful, all flooded, says Valentina, talking about Glastonbury. If somewhat impractical, unless you have a canoe. Kev is a really good photographer. Yes, he is indeed. Very fine photographer. The full Irish Gary is in the house. Another fine day on the sun. Well, if you consider Baltic temperatures fine, Gary, then yes, another fine day on the sod. Okay, I'm all caught up. I need to get moving on because I need to finish at 9 to make a run to the train station. And I'm not going anywhere, by the way, dropping somebody. What else was I going to say before I started? Yes. So I have had today, this afternoon, a look at the Moncon McGann conversation. You may remember that at the beginning of the month, I did a live podcast interview in Debarras in Clonakilty in County Cork with the great Moncon McGann. That was videoed and is going to be made available to Mythical Ireland followers in the coming days. But I have seen the draft video and I believe you'll love it. Very interesting conversation. I hope you agree. But keep an eye out for that as soon as I can upload it to the Mythical Ireland channel, which will not be today or tomorrow, but maybe sometime this week. So just keep an eye out on the Facebook and the YouTube. Louise Sherrill has joined us. Good evening to you, Louise, wherever you are. I'm not sure, but thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas early. The 6th of December is St. Nicholas's Day. Advent. The introit is dropped down due ye heavens. I just had to sing it and it rained and rained. So apparently, yes, St. Nicholas, his day is the 6th. Is that right? So we're on Christmas Eve, really. Chungus Khan. Much love, Anthony August chat. Yes, indeed, Chungus. Excuse me. Apologies. The other thing is that this morning I was in Fornox, as I mentioned earlier, with Joe Monk's filming. He is going to make his footage available to me. So you can, hopefully in the next couple of days, also that piece about the importance of preserving our Neolithic heritage and looking after it for future generations. That's coming. What else? Yes, on Wednesday, I will be performing the launch of the Journal of the Old Drogheda Society at Millmount. And that's my photo of Millmount and the Tholsel clock in Drogheda on the cover. So a great honour and a pleasure to have been asked for the first time to officially launch the Journal of the Old Drogheda Society. I have something of a little speech that I drafted today. Short, sweet, and hopefully full of puns and funny and all of that. What else? There was something else that I can't immediately remember. If you're in Drogheda, the Drogheda Photographic Society is having me as a guest on Thursday evening, where I'll present a slideshow, as it were, a PowerPoint or whatever, of some of my photography. It would be pretty impossible to show it all, because that would take several weeks. But the highlights, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, I'm going to get on with the reading. Adele Perth is here as well. I mean, we have half of the Southern Hemisphere tuned in this evening, this morning for them. Adele, always a pleasure. Lovely to see you. I hope you're in good form. Excuse me, Tuesday Thompson is saying happy Mythology Monday. Well, thank you very much. And speaking of Tuesday, there's loads of people for whom it's already Tuesday who are watching. So we're going to continue in our exploration of paganism. But this is from, of course, P.W. Joyce's A Social History of Ancient Ireland, Volume 1, which we have been reading for several weeks now. This is the 16th episode. I will probably take a break from this coming up to the solstice season. Apologies. And cover some other things just to take a little break from it. In the meantime, we're talking about paganism. Of course, we are not talking about modern paganism or neo-paganism, because this book was published in 1903. We are talking about paganism as in what people used to say existed before Christianity. They don't put so many labels on it nowadays, because we're a bit more secular in our whole approach these days. Chris has been watching for a while. Can I request a video of your top 5 or 10 recommended Irish history / mythology books? Yeah, great. Let's do that, Chris. But you can't put in history and mythology together. They're two very distinct subjects. I know that they often overlap. I could talk for hours on mythology books alone, and for several other hours on history books. So maybe we'll do one episode on each. Top 10 mythology books, top 10 history books. Let me just take a note of that, actually. Live stream. That's a great idea. Top 10 myth books. Now we're talking about Irish mythology, obviously, and top 10 history books. Great idea. Yeah, let's do that. Not today, obviously, but maybe next week. Certainly in the coming weeks. Yes, Brendan, I know. And yeah. There's just so much going on. I'm trying to edit the Return to Segish companion volume, which is finished. I parked the Fornox monograph, but I'm going to try and get back to that after Christmas. Joe Butler wants me to mention the calendars. Thank you, Joe, for the reminder. Don't forget, I still have tons of calendars here. The Mythical Ireland 2024 calendar is available on the website, mythicalireland.com. And so if you're in Australia or New Zealand, wherever you are in the world, Canada, America, South America, Europe, Africa, China, Japan, our postal service posts worldwide. So order now to get in before the Christmas rush. Thank you for the reminder, Joe. A wee collection from Tuesday morning here, the South. Kia ora. Look forward to today's reading. That's Michael. Michael, as I say, a very, very good morning to you. I hope it's not too early down there. Right, let's get on with the show, because it's almost 8:30 here already, and I need to finish around 9 o'clock. As I say, apologies for the slightly foreshortened episode this week. I hope that you'll be patient with me. Don't forget that there's lots of goodies to come. There'll be the Fornox video sometime in the next couple of days. There'll be the Moncon video, which is over an hour long. Hope you really enjoy that. I'm sure you will, but because I'm in it, I don't want to say too much in case it sounds like I'm boasting prematurely, because maybe y'all think it's rubbish. And I even managed to get a few funnies into it. Lynn Murphy is in the house. Lynn, always a pleasure to welcome another Murphy to the Mythical Ireland Library. What a pleasure. Brendan has his and loves it. Brilliant stuff. And don't forget, I'm just saying, not to you, Brendan, but to everybody, they make lovely Christmas presents if you're stuck for ideas for somebody that, might like it. Name. The old form of the Irish name for a druid is Drui, D-R-U-I. Modern D-R-A-I or D-R-A-O-I, all pronounced Dree, D-R-E-E, Dree. But in the oblique cases, it takes a D, genitive drua, dative druid, drui, corresponding with the modern word druid. Druid is uniformly translated wizard by some of the best modern authorities. And wizards and druids unquestionably were and are so presented by our earliest traditions, though always called druid. So when we say, as we often do, quoting the great Gandalf the Grey, that a wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins, we could equally say a druid is never late, because apparently they're the same thing. The Druids of Gaul and Ireland were undoubtedly identical as a class, though differing in many particulars. And they were all wizards. But those of Gaul are always called druids, and to apply the term druid to the one class and wizard to the other might lead to a misconception, as if they were essentially different. That the ancient Irish considered their own druids in a general way identical with those of the continent appears from this, that they apply the word drui to both. And while Latin writers commonly translated druid by magus, M-A-G-U-S, this same word is retranslated drui by Irish writers. Thus, Simon Magus is called in Irish writings Simon Drui. For these reasons, it will be more convenient to retain here the familiar word druid. Yes, so druid, wizard, and magus. Plural, magi. Is that right? Druids, the sole men of learning, S-O-L-E. In pagan times, the Druids were the exclusive possessors of whatever learning was then known. They combined, I think that's probably too sweeping a statement. It couldn't be universally true, you know. Anyway, let's see what he has got to, let's see what else he's got to say. They combined in themselves all the learned professions. They were not only Druids, but judges, prophets, historians, poets, and even physicians. But as time went on, there was a gradual tendency towards specialization, as we see in some of the learned professions of our own day. Until Patrick came, says the Brehon law, only 3 classes of persons were permitted to speak in public in Éireann, i.e. their pronouncements received some sort of official recognition, viz. A chronicler to relate events and tell stories, a poet to eulogize and satirize, a brehon or judge to pass sentence from the precedents and commentaries. Unquote. Here there is a clear intimation that there were 3 separate persons concerned. Nevertheless, down to the latest period of the prevalence of the Irish customs, 2 or more professions were often centered in one man, especially those of poetry, history, and literature in general. There were druids in every part of Ireland, but as we might expect, Tara, the residence of the over-kings, the Ardri of Ireland, was, as the tripartite life, that's of St. Patrick, expresses it, quote, the chief seat of the idolatry and druidism of Éireann, unquote. Of course, everything that was written by a Christian hand has to talk about paganism and idolatry. For God's sake. It's like, right, we get it. Yeah. You've come in with all your Bible bashing stuff, and everything that came before that was darkness and evil. We get it. Don't labour the point. The Druids had the reputation of being great magicians. And in this character, they figure more frequently and conspicuously than in any other, both in ecclesiastical and lay literature. So true is this, that the most general Irish word for sorcery, magic, or necromancy is druidecht, but the D in there is lenited, so druidecht, which simply means druidism, a word still in use. In some of the old historical romances, we find the issues of battles sometimes determined not so much by the valour of the combatants, as by the magical powers of the druids attached to the armies. They could, as the legends tell, raise druidical clouds and mists and bring down showers of fire and blood. They could drive a man insane or into idiocy by flinging a magic wisp of straw in his face. In the hymn that St. Patrick chanted on his way to Tara on Easter Sunday morning, he asks God to protect him against the spells of women, of smiths, there you go, Tom King, and of druids. Brechan the Druid threatens St. Columba, quote, "Thou wilt not be able to voyage to Loch Ness, on Loch Ness, should I say, for I will make the wind contrary to thee, and I will bring a great darkness over thee," unquote. And he did so, as Adovnon's narrative tells us. Adovnon, of course, the 7th century chronicler of the life of St. Columba. But Columba removed the storm and darkness by prayer and made his voyage. The victory of the Christian over the pagan, of course, always being a feature of these stories, or regularly being a feature of these stories. Irish technical thinker Marcus just got here after eating dinner. Big bowl of Irish stew with good homemade bread. Well, I had salmon for dinner. I was very lucky. Josie Weatherford's in the house. Calday Maratashiv. I'm ready for my favourite part of the book. Brilliant. Dealing with paganism. Josie, always a pleasure. Johnny Wilson is in Dallas in Texas. Good afternoon to you, Johnny. Several viewers from Texas this afternoon. Who else? Oh, yes, the wisp of straw. There are a few references to using straw to make false warriors by female druids to help the Fianna in the Battle of Ventry. Oh, very interesting. Fiontry. That we did that, didn't we? We covered that in several episodes, ages and ages and ages and ages ago. The Battle of the White Strand, or did we? I think we did. Yeah, the Battle of the White Strand, Part 1, episode number 126. Wow! 127 and 128. Exactly half of the number of episodes ago, really. 127 is half of 254, isn't it? Am I right? Yeah, I think I am. Yeah. So, wow. Those of you who are new to Live Irish Myths, you have 253 episodes to catch up on. Yes, indeed. Insanity. No, I'm not describing all of you. Straw warriors to help the Fianna. Sounds almost like golems. Pat. Lake O'Connelly is in Vermont. Hello, Pat. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're in good form. Perhaps the most dreaded of all the necromantic powers attributed to the Druids was that of producing madness. In the pagan ages, and down far into Christian times, madness, Irish dásacht, was believed to be often brought on by malignant magical agency, usually the work of some druid. For this purpose, the druid prepared a madman's wisp, or fluttering wisp, Dlui fulla, D-L-U-I, Dlui. That is, a little wisp of straw or grass into which he pronounced some horrible incantations, and, watching his opportunity, flung it into the face of his victim, who at once became insane or idiotic. I'm just thinking of Lord of the Rings and Saruman, you know. There's a fell voice on the air while they're trying to climb over Caradhras, and what is it? It's Saruman! And he's away on top of the Tower of Orthanc, speaking these diabolical words. Yes, and far away on a mountaintop, the snow is coming down on top of the poor hobbits. So generally was insanity attributed to this, that in the glosses to the Shanachas Mór, a madman, Irish dásachtach, or fulla, F-U-L-L-A, is repeatedly described as one, quote, upon whom the Dlui fulla, or magic wisp, has been thrown, unquote. Voodoo, says Brendan. Something like that, yeah. Voodoo. Very good impression. Sorry, good impression. Yes, better. Samantha Healy is in Warren Point, where it's certainly a chilly night, Samantha. I mean, I was just saying earlier how today was quite Baltic, as we say, in this part of the world. Samantha Healy is joining us. Samantha, you're, yes, the same Samantha who I just talked about. Yes, same person. Sorry, Samantha, I was confused there for a moment. I thought I was reading comments from different people, but you're very welcome. Hope it's not too chilly. And come here, I hope you have some sort of a fire lit down in Warren Point, or some sort of central heating on, you know. The legend of Cumgum illustrates this fell necromantic power. Moilochter, king of the Daces in Munster, early in the 7th century, had a son named Cumgon, probably pronounced Covgon because of the M with the lenition, but anyway, forgive me. Had a son named Cumgon, remarkable for his manly beauty and accomplishments, who was half-brother by the same mother to Saint Comin-Futta. One day, at a great fair held in Tipperary, Cumgon carried off all the prizes in the athletic sports, and the spectators were delighted with him, especially the king's druid. But a certain woman, who had before that vainly sought Cumgon's love, now revenged herself on him by whispering a false accusation into the druid's ear. Whereupon his admiration for the youth was instantly changed to furious jealousy. And when Cumgon and his friends retired to a neighbouring river to wash themselves and their horses after the sports, he followed them and watched his opportunity, and watching his opportunity, flung a magic wisp over him, at the same time pronouncing some fiendish words. When the young man came forth from the water, his whole body burst out into boils and ulcers, so that his attendants had to bring him to his father's house, all diseased and helpless as he was. There he wasted away in body, his mind decayed, his hair fell off, and ever afterwards he wandered about the palace, a bald, drivelling idiot. But he had lucid intervals, and then he became an inspired poet, and uttered prophecies, so that he is known in the legendary literature as Mach Dacherda, the youth of the two arts, that is to say, poetry and foolishness. I never heard foolishness described as an art before, unless, of course, it's a put-on art, you know. The invention of the madman's wisp is assigned by a legend in the Cor Anvan to a celebrated Leinster druid named Fullon, F-U-L-L-O-N. He was quite full on, who lived centuries before the Christian era. Quote, Fullon was the first druid who cast a spell, bricht in Irish, B-R-I-C-H-T, on a wisp, so as to send by means of it a human being a flying for Fulluvan. Hence, Glui Fulla, or madman's wisp, is a saying among the Scots from that day to this, unquote. Scots, of course, we know from previous episodes, being an old word for the Irish. As I am on the subject of madness, it will be better to finish here what is to be said about it. A fit of insanity was often called balya or buile, and there was a most curious belief that during the paroxysm, a madman's body became as light as air, so that as he ran distractedly, he scarcely touched the ground. As he rose, or he rose into the air, still speeding on with a sort of fluttering motion. This was especially the case when madness was produced by the rage of battle. For during a bloody battle, it sometimes happened that an excitable combatant ran mad with fury and horror, and occurrences of this kind are recorded in the romantic accounts of nearly all the great battles fought in Ireland. We are told in the historic story of the Battle of Moyrath, fought AD 637, that towards the close of the day, a brave young warrior, Suvna or Sweeney, became distracted with the horrors he witnessed. And imagining he saw battle demons hovering and shrieking overhead, he suddenly bounded off the earth and alighted on the boss of another warrior's shield. from which, after a moment, he leaped up again, and so he continued flitting and bounding on the shields and helmet crests of the combatants and on the tops of the neighbouring trees, till he finally fled from the field. After which he wandered round Ireland, a gelt or madman, Gelt. His adventures from the day of battle till his death are told in a romantic tale, still extant in manuscripts, called Bulle Huivne, Sweveney's Frenzy or Madness. The belief that men were driven mad in battle and ran and fluttered away in this manner found its way into the sober records of the annalists. Sober. I like that because they are quite terse and matter of fact, who relate that at the Battle of Allen in Kildare, fought AD 722, 9 persons went crazy with terror, or as Tiernock expresses it, et ix volatiles, i.e. Geltai, Geltai, and 9 persons went flying, i.e. madmen. Fascinating. I have been reading totally, not completely unrelated, but largely unrelated. I have been reading a biography. I think I may have mentioned this last week. I've been reading a biography of J.D. Salinger, the author of The Catcher in the Rye. That's a book I've never read, by the way. Salinger's story is absolutely amazing. It's fascinating and deeply disturbing. It's very tragic. He landed on Utah Beach. Indeed, I did mention this last week, didn't I? And saw all the horrors. The Hurtgen Forest battle on the Western Front with the Germans, in which there were thousands and thousands of American casualties, 33,000 or something like that. And he came home from the war suffering from PTSD, which was just called, what was it called? Battle fatigue at that time. And spent the rest of his life tried to live as a recluse. But it's a real tragic story. So this idea of people driven mad in battle and running away, I mean, that's... Could you blame them? Watching some of the horrors that happen on battlefields, you know? The meat grinder, says Marcus. Is that the war? Hurtgen Forest, by the way, that's incredible. The descriptions of that battle in that giant forest, which is on the Western German border with Belgium. And the fact that the Nazis were so well concealed in amongst the trees, and the casualties were just sky high and all of that. Even the Norse visitors to this country took up the legend, and we find it recorded as one of the wonders of Ireland in an old Norse book called Kongs Skugsjo, or Speculum Regale, written about AD 1250. Quote, "There is also one thing which will seem very wonderful about men who are called Gelt," unquote. And the writer goes on to tell about men running mad out of battle and living in the woods for 20 years, so that feathers grew on their bodies, and that though they were not quite able to fly, they were incredibly swift and, quote, run along the tops of the trees almost as swiftly as monkeys or squirrels, unquote. Interesting that a Viking should talk about monkeys. Where did a Viking see monkeys? Not in Britain or Ireland, I can assure you. Of this, although there were some brought into Ireland, of course, the Barbary ape that was found at Owen Macha. But no doubt they had seen them further afield in their trips further south into the Mediterranean. Hurtgen Forest was referred to as the meat grinder in history. Look it up, says Marcus. Wow. I've no doubt that would be the case, having read this biography and the sort of stuff that happened. Oh my God. And bombs exploding in trees and American soldiers being shredded by basically large splinters of trees, The story of Sweeney is like that. It's kind of a traumatic response to battle. And the idea that they become bird-like and take the trees is kind of shape-shifting. Sweeney even grows feathers. There you go, Josie. You pre-shadowed what I then read. Kathy May is in the house on the lunch break, and it's raining. Well, all the more reason to be indoors watching live Irish Myths. Kathy May, what a pleasure, as always. Deborah Gilbert tells us that Wilfred Owen's poetry of World War I is heartbreaking. I can imagine. And we have some hints of the awfulness of the Great War in the poetry of Francis Ledwidge from Slane here in the Boyne Valley, who died at Ypres. Yeah, all that's kind of really tragic, you know. Why do we do these things to each other? Of this superstition that frenzied madmen were as light as air and could climb up precipices, there are many other examples in the ancient tales. We see by the above quotation that it retained its hold till the 13th century, and it still lingers among the peasantry in some remote districts. There is a valley in Kerry called Glonagalt, the Glen of the Lunatics, Irish Glan na Nialt. It is believed that all lunatics, if left to themselves, would find their way to it, no matter from what part of Ireland. When they have lived in solitude for some time, drinking of the water of Tubernagalt, the lunatic's well, and eating of the cresses that grow along the little stream, the poor wanderers get restored to sanity. Fascinating stuff. It appears by the story of the Battle of Ventry that this glen was first discovered by a youth named Gull, who fled frenzied from that battle as Sweeney from Moirath and plunged into the seclusion of Glengalt. Somebody was mentioning Gollum. There is a well in Donegal which was believed to possess the same virtue as Tubernagalt, and to which all the deranged people in the surrounding district were wont to resort. It is situated on the strand near high water mark, a third of a mile south of Inishowen Head, near the entrance to Loch Foyle. It still retains its old name, Shrove Brine, Brands Shrove or Stream, which is represented in the name of the adjacent hamlet of Struve, Stroove. Various powers. In the lives of the saints, the druids and their magical arts figure conspicuously, as, for instance, in the tripartite life of St. Patrick and in the earlier memoir of the saint by Murchu, as well as in Adamnon's life of St. Columba, and not less so in the historical tales. Before the Battle of Culdrevne, fought in 561 between the northern and the southern Aineal, or the O'Neills, Dermot, King of Ireland, who headed the southern Aineal, a Christian king, called to the aid of the druid Freachan, who, just as the armies were about to engage, made an Arva Drua round the southern army to protect it. It is not easy to say what this Arva Drua was. Stokes translates it as, Whitley Stokes that is, Druid's fence. And no doubt it was a magic fence of some kind, for this is the usual sense of Arva in old Irish writings. One man of the northern army, named Moglaim, sprang across the Arva, by which he broke the charm, but sacrificed his own life, for he was at once slain. After which the battle was fought, and Dermot was defeated with a loss of 3,000, while Moglaim alone fell on the other side. Wow. What's the odds of that happening? 3,000 losses on one side, one on the other. All this is related by Tiernock and the other annalists. A lot of the stuff in the annals is not mythological. In the Agalov na Shanorach, the colloquy of the ancients, a chief's dun is mentioned as sometimes surrounded by a Sneim druid, Sneim Drua, a druid's knot. Is this the same as the Arva Drua, or have the two any connection? Question mark. No answer given. PTSD, yeah. Alan's comment very interesting in that regard. The druid could pronounce a malign incantation, no doubt a sort of glom dichin, not only on an individual, but on a whole army, so as to produce a withering and enervating effect on the men. Before the Battle of Mucrive, AD 250, Ailill Olam's son, Owen, one of the contending princes, came to Dill, the blind old druid of Ossory, to ask him to maledict the hostile army. Nice word. Well, it's not a nice word, actually, but good word to describe the meaning. As Balak employed Balaam. But on their way towards the place, Dill came somehow to know by Owen's voice that he was doomed to defeat and death, and refused to proceed farther. Wise choice. The Druids could give a drink of forgetfulness, Jog Jarmad, so as to efface the memory of any particular transaction. A little bit like those flashy things in Men in Black, you know. Cuchulainn had fallen in love with the with the fairy lady Fand, so that his wife Emer was jealous. But Conchobar's druid gave each of them, Cuchulainn and Emer, a drink of forgetfulness, so that he quite forgot Fand and she her jealousy, and they were reconciled. The druids were the intermediaries with the fairies and with the invisible world in general, in which they could influence for good or for evil. Which they could influence for good or for evil. And they could protect people from the malice of evil disposed spirits of every kind, which explains much of their influence with the people. And I'm just going to read one more section. I need to go in a few minutes, so we're not going to read the entire section. Okay, we'll just read a couple more pages then. The water in Glanigalt is found to be high in lithium, which is prescribed as a psychiatric drug in modern times. It's amazing what the old people knew. That's from Teresa Collins. Is that true? That's fascinating. Really, really fascinating. There you go. Late here, says Gordon Farrell. Gordon, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll watch again. No problem at all. I'm nearly finished anyway because I have to go a little bit early today. I had a drink of forgetfulness once. Just can't remember where I put the dram. How can you remember that you had it? An important function of a druid was divination, forecasting future events, which was practiced by the pagan Irish in connection with almost all important affairs, such as military expeditions. Lera's druids foretold the coming of St. Patrick. That's related in the Tripartite Life, page 33. And the druid Duvdia foretells the defeat and death of Congal in the Battle of Moirath. Queen Maeve, before setting out on the Táin expedition, confers with her druid to get from him knowledge and prophecy. So he prophesies, quote, "Whosoever they be that will not return, thou thyself shalt certainly return. Whosoever they be that will not return, thou thyself shalt certainly return." Unquote. The Druids forecasted partly by observation of natural objects or occurrences, and partly by certain artificial rites. And in the exercise of this function, the Druid was a Fá, or prophet, F-A-F-A-I-T-H. They drew auguries from observation of the clouds. On the eve of a certain Samhain, Dahi, king of Ireland, AD 405 to 428, who happened at the time to be at Cnochnodroa, the Druid's Hill, now Mullerrow, and often incorrectly called Red Hill, in the parish of Screen, Sligo, west of Ballysadare Bay, where there was then a royal residence, ordered his druid to forecast for him the events of his reign from that till next Samhain. The druid went to the summit of the hill, where he remained all night, and, returning at sunrise, addressed the king somewhat as the witches addressed Macbeth. This doesn't sound good. Quote, "Art thou asleep, O king of Erin and Alban?" That is, king of Ireland and Scotland. "Why the addition to my title?" asked the king. "I am not the king of Alban." And the druid answered that he had consulted, quote, "the clouds of the men of Erin," unquote, by which he found out that the king would make a conquering expedition to Alban, Britain, and Gaul, which accordingly he did soon afterwards. Wow. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. This account of cloud divination is corroborated by the existence in Irish of the word Nélador for an astrologer or diviner, and Néladoracht glosses pyromantia, divination by fire, in an old Irish treatise on Latin declension. But the primary meaning of Nélador is cloud diviner, and of Néladoracht, divination by clouds. For nail, various spellings of the same word, means a cloud, even to this day, and not star or fire. Wow. Keith Doran is watching from Australia. Keith, good morning. Happy Tuesday to you. There are an incredible number of people from Australia and New Zealand watching us this morning. Fantastic. And have a great day down there. We're almost finished here. But not to worry, because it's 9 o'clock and I got to leave somebody to a train, to the train station. Astrology in the proper sense of the word, divination from the stars, appears nevertheless to have been practiced by the Irish. Forecasting the proper time for beginning to build a house is alluded to in a short Irish poem contained in an 8th century manuscript, now in a monastery in Carinthia, having been brought thither by some early Irish missionary. Quote, "There is no house more auspicious with its stars last night, with its sun and with its moon," unquote. This reference to astrology is in a purely Christian connection, and it appears from the poem that the house in question was built by the great Christian architect, the Gobán Saor. The medieval version of Gobán or Gawain or Govnu, Tom King, take note, on Gawa. In the legends of the saints, we find divination by the heavenly bodies. When St. Columcille was a child, his foster father went to a certain prophet, Fá, to ask him when the child was to begin to learn his letters, and the prophet, having first scanned the heavens, decided that the lessons were to begin at once. Yeah, must take a note. For purposes of divination, they often used a rod of yew with Ogham words cut on it. When Etain, King Yuki Aram's queen, was carried off by the fairy King Midger, the druid Dallon was commissioned by King Uchi to find out where she was. That's a variant of that Tuchmark Etain. Sorry, I'm taking margin notes. After much searching, he at last, quote, made 4 rods of yew and writes an ogham on them, and by his keys of knowledge and by his ogham, it, the fairy palace where the queen was, is revealed to him, unquote. Dr. Stokes points out that similarly at Praeneste, the oracles were derived from lots consisting of oak with ancient characters engraved on them. Sounds a little bit like the I Ching, doesn't it? Or the I Ching, if you prefer. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave it at that. I'm sorry. But very nice train station in Drogheda. Yes, very old, isn't it? It's a 19th century, mid-19th century building, I think, the original train station. Glad you enjoyed that. Folks, I'm sorry that I'm cutting things a little bit short, but do bear in mind, keep an eye out on the YouTube, and of course I'll share the link on Facebook for the Fornox interview about saving our heritage, and in the coming days, the Moncon McGann conversation. I hope you really enjoy that. In the meantime, please do consider becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland and supporting all of this work. You can find the information about that scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Become a patron at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. A $5 a month is all you need to do to help the mission, as it were. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great day. Have a great evening, afternoon, night, morning, whatever. Those of you already in Tuesday, have a wonderful day. Those of you still in Monday, have a wonderful rest of your Monday. We'll see you again next week for Live Irish Myths. Don't forget, we are coming into winter solstice season. There's going to be lots of stuff about Newgrange over the next few weeks, of course. And I'll be sharing as much as I possibly can in terms of pictures and information, and do some live streams from the monument in the days of the solstice. There is an official live stream this year. Deirdre, thank you. I didn't say hello to you earlier on. Ichawa, Colusov, Slongafol, and all of that. Lexi Erickson is late, and we're just leaving. But Lexi, you'll get a chance now to watch the replay immediately. And apologies that I'm running, but as I say, I have a mission. Thank you all for tuning in. It's a wonderful honor and a pleasure, of course, for me to lead this dive into ancient Irish lore and mythology and folklore and history and chronicles and annals and fun. And it wouldn't be the same without all of you wonderful people to follow along. So with that, I'll say good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and Toga Boogie. Take it easy.